Hey everyone, this is going to be my Protection Paladin guide for the War Within Season 2 Mythic Plus. There's a lot that's changed over the season when it comes to Paladin. I still feel like this is a very viable tank for high-end Mythic Plus, and honestly I've been having some fun with it, so I decided it's time for me to go ahead and put out a guide before the next season comes out. And just a heads up, for once the new season comes out for the War Within, I will be putting out guides for all the tanks, so if you guys are interested in that, make sure you stay tuned. But let's go ahead and get into the video. First off, we're going to talk about hero talents. So there is Lightsmith and then there is Templar. Now Lightsmith is a little bit more of a defensive style of tank. So with Lightsmith basically allows you to use holy armaments, which holy armaments is Holy Bulwark and Sacred Weapon, so it's technically two abilities. Holy Bulwark is while wielding a Holy Bulwark, gain an absorb shield for 15% of your max health and an additional 2% every 2 seconds, and it lasts 20 seconds. And Sacred Weapon is while wielding a Sacred Weapon, your spells and abilities have a chance to deal % holy damage or healing nearby targets. Effect is increased when Sacred Weapon strikes a single target and is reduced above 5 targets. This also lasts for 20 seconds. So that's kind of just a quick synopsis of this hero talent tree. There are a few other things like Tempered in Battle, which is when you and your ally are wielding a Holy Bulwark or healed above maximum health. Transfer 100% of that overhealing to your ally. When you and your ally are wielding a Sacred Weapon, drop below 40% health, redistribute your health immediately every 1 second for 4 seconds, and may only occur once per cast. So all in all, the basis of Lightsmith is it is more of a defensive style of tanking. It does offer a good amount of damage. It is 100% viable in Mythic Plus. I want you to know that, but it is more of a defensive style of Paladin gameplay. Templar is more of a offensive damage dealing build. Now it does offer some defensives and utility, but all in all, basically is what it does is with Light's Guidance is when your Eye of Tyr is replaced with Hammer of Light for 20 seconds after it is cast, meaning Eye of Tyr is cast. So Hammer of Light is when you hammer down your enemies with the power of light, dealing % holy damage and % holy damage to 4 nearby enemies as well. Additionally, it also calls down Empyrean hammers from the sky to strike 3 nearby enemies for holy damage each. Now this does cost 5 holy power, so this basically gives you an extra offensive ability alongside your Eye of Tyr defensive, and it just creates a lot more damage output as a tank. Which alongside Light's Deliverance is when you gain a stack of Light's Deliverance when you call down an Empyrean hammer. While Eye of Tyr and Hammer of Light are unavailable, you consume 60 stacks of Light's Deliverance, empowering yourself to cast a Hammer of Light in additional time for free. So this is a very quick synopsis of both these hero talents. We will mostly be focusing on Templar, but I will be giving a build for Lightsmith if you feel like using it. Beginners, I feel like Lightsmith is a lot more defensive, so if you're starting out to play Paladin, I would recommend Lightsmith. But if you're more of an advanced player or you at least have a good grasp on how Paladin works, I would say Templar is your better option because it is used a lot more in high keys. Now let's go ahead and talk about talents. Now we're going to talk about the Lightsmith build, and all of these talent import codes will be down in the description below. So if you want to play Lightsmith, you will have this build, and if you want to play Templar, you will also have that build. In the Paladin class tree, there are a few things you can change, but for beginners, this is what I would be using just in general, because it basically has all the utility that you need. You can change out a few things. You could grab Fist of Justice, or you could grab Unbound Freedom, which gives 30% increased move speed for a friendly target as well. It is very nice in a lot of circumstances to be using this, but in general, this is just the tree that I would be using. Now for the Protection Paladin tree, there are a few things that you can change. We are taking more offensive abilities like Bastion of Light. Now you could take Bastion of Light off and put it into Uther's Counsel, which Uther's Counsel is your Lay on Hands, Divine Shield, Blessing of Protection, and Blessing of Spell Warding have a 15% reduced cooldown. So it allows you to be a little bit more tanky or help others in the same process. You could also take off Moment of Glory and put it into Eye of Tyr as well. Even though we aren't playing Templar, Eye of Tyr is still an amazing ability, which Eye of Tyr, we will talk about this cooldown later in this video, but it is kind of more of a defensive cooldown. It does deal some damage, but it reduces the damage that you take by 25%. So we can talk about this in the cooldown section of this video, but you can take off Moment of Glory and put it into Eye of Tyr, and you can take off Bastion of Light and put it into Uther's Counsel if you needed more defensives. Now, if you're fine on defensives and you want a little bit more damage, you can technically take off Blessing of Spell Warding and put it into Inspiring Vanguard, and that would basically be the max damage that you could get out of this tree. But all in all, I would keep it into Spell Warding just because Spell Warding is such an amazing ability. So that is what I would be doing for the Lightsmith Protection Paladin talent tree. Now when it comes to Templar, there are a few different things that you can do. Once again, you can take off the Blessing of Spell Warding and put it into Inspiring Vanguard just for a little bit more damage, but I would leave it into Blessing of Spell Warding just because the ability is so good. I have seen a few differences between Bulwark of Righteous Fury and Bastion of Light. It's kind of been a toss-up of which one does more damage. I usually like running Bastion of Light just because I feel like I get more procs for it. But in general, Bulwark of Righteous Fury is just a really good talent node to use. So this one kind of comes in preference of what you want to use. But you also, in the Templar tree, we are not taking Moment of Glory or Fervor. We are taking Eye of Tyr and Inmost Light for our Hammer of Light procs. But all in all, I feel like Templar is pretty simple when it comes to talent trees. So this is what I would be running in general for Templar. And I want to also preferences. A lot of these builds that I make are generalized builds that you can use for weekly Mythic Plus or just lower end Mythic Plus if you want to. These can work in high keys, but once you kind of get to a point where you're doing anything above a plus 12, you kind of have to fine tune a lot of these talent trees on what you need into each specific dungeon or scenario or what composition you have. But this is my generic talent tree for the Templar, and the import codes will be down in the description. Next, we're going to go ahead and discuss the basic gameplay loop of a Protection Paladin. Protection Paladin has one resource, which is called Holy Power. Holy Power can be built by using one of three abilities. The first ability we're going to talk about is called Judgment, which Judgment is a range ability where you throw a hammer at your target, does some damage, and gives you one Holy Power per cast. The second ability that we'll talk about that grants Holy Power is called Blessed Hammer, which is when you throw a blessed hammer that spirals around you, dealing holy damage to enemies and reduces the damage they deal to you as well. So this is going to be one of your main AoE abilities that you'll be using to create Holy Power. And this can also be used out of combat, so you can be generating Holy Power in between pools. For the third Holy Power generating ability is called Hammer of Wrath, is when you hurl a divine hammer that strikes an enemy for % holy damage and is only usable on enemies that have less than 20% health. This also generates one Holy Power. Now for the majority of time, what you'll be spending your Holy Power on is called the Shield of the Righteous. Now this will be your main defensive ability as a Protection Paladin, which Shield of the Righteous slams enemies in front of you with your shield, causing holy damage and increases your armor by a percentage for 4.5 seconds. Now this can stack. You can use this multiple times, and as a Protection Paladin, the Shield of the Righteous increases your strength and stamina by 2% for 10 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. So for the majority of the time when you're building up Holy Power, you'll be wanting to spend on Shield of the Righteous just to keep your armor up and stacking up the amount of time that you can have on Shield of the Righteous active. And one thing to note as well, this does cost 3 Holy Power. So you will need to build up 3 Holy Power to use the Shield of Righteous, and then continue building up again to use your next Shield of Righteous, which should be your basic idea of how to use this ability. Another little tip about Shield of the Righteous, this is not part of your GCD, so it can be weaved in very quickly in between abilities. The next thing that you'll be spending your Holy Power on is called Word of Glory, which Word of Glory calls down the light to heal a friendly target 4% spell power. Now for Protection Paladin, if you cast it on yourself, its healing is increased by 300% based off your missing health. And because of the talent node that we take called Shining Light, every 3 Shield of the Righteous makes your next Word of Glory cost no Holy Power, maximum of 2 stacks. So in general, you will be getting free stacks of Word of Glory that you can use on yourself or other team members. But in general, you will want to be using a lot of your Holy Power on Shield of the Righteous to keep your defensives up high so that you have more survivability, and use these free Word of Glory stacks to keep yourself topped off health-wise. Another little tip that I wanted to add when it comes to Word of Glory, because we do take Faith in the Light, we will get a bonus 30% additional block chance for 6 seconds every time we use Word of Glory. So Word of Glory not only heals you, but it is also a very beneficial defensive because of the talent nodes that we do take. Now for the last part of this little basic gameplay loop section, I wanted to talk about Consecration. Now Consecration is one of those abilities that you always need to have uptime on. Whenever you are getting ready to pull a pack, Group the pack, drop your consecration, because as you can see from the tooltip here, consecration consecrates the land beneath you, causing holy damage over 12 seconds to enemies who enter the area. Now, if you are running consecrated ground, it does reduce their movement speed by 50%, but because we are running divine bulwark, consecration also helps as a defensive. Consecration will now increase your chance to block melee attacks by 8%. And as a protection paladin, while you're inside your consecration, your damage taken is reduced. So now you can see after reading these tooltips how important consecration is as a protection paladin. You want to make sure that you have your shield of the righteous up when you're pulling a pack, and you instantaneously drop consecration so that you can have those defensives available. Now that we've talked about the gameplay loop of a protection paladin, I want to go ahead and go into the cooldown section of this video. So for the first cooldown that we're going to talk about is called Avenger's Shield, which Avenger's Shield is when you hurl your shield at an enemy target, dealing holy damage and interrupting and silencing the non-player target for 3 seconds. This also jumps to 2 additional nearby enemies. And because we are a protection wearer, this shields you for 8 seconds, absorbing 60% as much damage as it dealt, and it also deals additional damage to all enemies within 5 yards of each target hit. So Avenger's Shield is going to be one of your main abilities when it comes to interrupting or silencing packs. It is very good. Paladin's one of the best classes and has the most interrupts as a tank. So just remember, Avenger's Shield helps also defensive, but it also is an amazing way to keep kicks rolling out. After that, we have Divine Toll, which Divine Toll instantly casts Avenger's Shield on up to 5 targets within 30 yards. This also generates 1 holy power per target hit. So if you're in a really rough spot and you have no holy power and your shield of righteous is down, you can throw Divine Toll out just to be able to fully stack your holy power as quickly as possible so you can get those defensives rolling. This also, a nice little thing about Divine Toll as well is just like Avenger's Shield, this also interrupts targets. So this is a very good way if you're going to pull a lot of caster mobs. You can throw out Divine Toll while they're doing their casts, and it will interrupt all of them and bring them closer together for cleave damage for your group. But just as a reminder, it does have a 1-minute cooldown, so you will be able to use this basically every pack. It is a shorter cooldown, but just be mindful of that 1-minute cooldown. After that, we have Eye of Tyr, which Eye of Tyr releases a blinding flash from your shield, causing holy damage to all nearby enemies within 8 yards, and reduces all of their damage they deal to you by 25% for 6 seconds. So basically look at Eye of Tyr as one of your main defensives that you can use alongside Shield of the Righteous, and you basically want to make sure Eye of Tyr is always on cooldown, especially if you're running Templar, because once you use Eye of Tyr, you will be proccing your Hammer of Light, which Hammer of Light is a big damage cooldown that you could be using alongside this because you will have that damage reduction, but you have to use Eye of Tyr first to be able to proc your Hammer of Light. So basically, in my mind, every pack you pull, you always want to be using Eye of Tyr. After that, we have Avenging Wrath. Now this is going to be one of our strongest, longer cooldowns as a protection paladin, but Avenging Wrath calls upon the light to become an avatar of retribution, causing judgment to generate 1 additional holy power. Each holy power spent causes you to explode with holy light, damaging all nearby enemies, and on top of this, it allows Hammer of Wrath to be used on any target. This also increases your healing and critical strike chance by 20% for 20 seconds. So if you're getting ready to pull a really big pack, you can pop Avenging Wrath and start pulling that pack, and you'll have increased damage, healing, and crit strike chance on top of being able to generate more holy power to use on Shield of the Righteous. Especially if we're playing Templar, we want to be making sure that this cooldown is used as much as humanly possible, just because of the talents that we take, and this is one of the most important cooldowns as a Templar protection paladin. So just keep that in mind if you are playing Templar. Make sure that this is on cooldown. After that, we have Guardian of Ancient Kings. Now this is one of our longest cooldowns as a protection paladin, as it is 5 minutes long, but it is also one of our strongest defensive cooldowns as a protection paladin. The Guardian of Ancient Kings empowers you with the spirit of Ancient Kings, reducing all damage you take by 50% for 8 seconds. Now I feel this is a little bit self-explanatory of when to use this, obviously in very big pools, like Cinderburn Meadery in the very first room when you're pulling about half the room and you're lusting at the same time. So if needed, I would just use this for major pulls in a key. After that, we have Ardent Defender. Ardent Defender reduces all damage you take by 20% for 8 seconds. While Ardent Defender is active, the next attack that would otherwise kill you will instead bring you to 20% of your maximum health. This is a very good defensive with a relatively low cooldown, so feel free to use this when needed. After that, we have Divine Shield. Now, Divine Shield is one of the strongest defensive cooldowns as a Paladin. So what does Divine Shield do? It grants immunity to all damage, harmful effects, knockbacks, and forced movement effects for 8 seconds. Now keep this in mind, if you are not running the talent Final Stand, if you do bubble, you will be automatically losing aggro to everything that you had aggro on. But because in most of the talent trees that we will be running, especially the 2 that I have brought up for each hero talent, we will be running Final Stand. So if you do bubble because you're about to die and you have no other defensives up, during Divine Shield, all targets within 15 yards are automatically taunted. So everything will be taunted to you and you will be immune to all sorts of damage or harmful effects. There are some interesting things that you can do where you can completely negate mechanics, but that's a little bit more of an advanced mechanic for specific dungeons or specific mechanics in those dungeons that we will save for a different video or different discussion. After that, we have Lay on Hands, which Lay on Hands is probably one of our best utility abilities as a protection paladin. It is an extremely long cooldown as it is a 10-minute CD, but Lay on Hands heals a friendly target for an amount equal to 100% of your maximum health, aka basically your healer is almost dead, he has 10% HP, you can lay on hands that healer and he will be healed to full. So basically you want to save this if your healer has no cooldowns and can't either keep himself alive or keep an important DPS alive. You can lay on hands that team member in a dire situation. Just keep in mind it is a 10-minute long cooldown, so use it when only needed. After that, we have Blessing of Protection. Blessing of Protection blesses a party or raid member, granting immunity to physical damage and harmful effects for 10 seconds. This cannot be used on target with Forbearance, causes Forbearance for 30 seconds, and shares a cooldown with Blessing of Spell Warding. After that, we have Blessing of Freedom. Blessing of Freedom blesses a party or raid member, granting immunity to movement impairing effects. If we are running Unbound Freedom, it increases the movement speed for that individual by 30% for 8 seconds as well. Next, we have Blessing of Sacrifice. Blessing of Sacrifice blesses a party or raid member, reducing their damage taken by 30%, but you suffer 100% of the damage prevented. This lasts 12 seconds, or until transfer damage would cause you to fall below 20% health. After that, we have Blessing of Spell Warding, which Blessing of Spell Warding blesses a party or raid member, granting immunity to magical damage and harmful effects for 10 seconds. So as you can see, for a lot of magic tank buster hits, or just magic hits, especially for DPS or healers, this is an incredibly strong spell, and I do take it in both of my talent trees for both hero talents as well. And finally, for our last cooldown that we have, it is called Intercession, which Intercession petitions the light on behalf of a fallen ally, restoring their spirit to body and allowing them to re-enter battle with 60% health and at least 20% mana. So basically this will be your battle res as a protection paladin. Now for the final section of this video, I do want to talk about stat priority. Obviously item level above all else, but your first stat should be haste, and your second stat should be crit strike equal to mastery. Both of these are very good stats for a protection paladin. I would definitely say mastery above crit chance just for survivability, because the more mastery you have, the more damage reduction you get through consecration. But if you're looking for more damage output and you have enough survivability, crit strike is a very good stat as well. Now for the third stat, I would put versatility. Versatility is just not the best stat for a protection paladin, so I wouldn't really look too much into versatility stat. I would more look into haste, mastery, and crit. But that's really all I have for you guys. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you sub to the channel, follow me on TikTok and Instagram, and I will be putting more videos out like this here soon. I also plan on doing a macro video of all the macros that I use on my tanks, so if you guys are interested in that, make sure you stay tuned. And also, I stream on Twitch and YouTube, so if you guys are interested in that, I stream every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturdays, starting at 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. But thank you guys for watching the video. I'll see you guys in the next one.